Welcome to a new series that I am starting here on Jessica's Animal Friends YouTube channel. This series is all about Enigma syndrome, and if you know anything about me or my channel, there are quite a few leopard geckos in this animal family that have Enigma syndrome. I have been contemplating making an Enigma syndrome video for quite some time now. However, every single time that I think about how to do it, there's too much to say in one video, so I figured I'll make a series here on YouTube about Enigma syndrome and my experience with it. And I thought that there's no better place to start than to discuss what Enigma syndrome is. Enigma syndrome is a neurological disorder that you will only find in leopard geckos who have the Enigma morph. It displays with a few different symptoms. I want to use my geckos as examples to what the symptoms of Enigma syndrome are. So for starters, there is circling. Another symptom is also stargazing. Another symptom is head bobbing or head tilting. And another symptom is death rolling. I don't want to mislead anyone, which is why I'm including this sound clip about how this is not death rolling. What you see here with Shireen is extreme stress, and it is due to the fact that there is that very thin layer of water droplets on the ground, which I did in the very beginning of having her to help her shed more easily, but as you can see, I no longer did that because it caused extreme stress for her, and had this gone on any longer, she might have death rolled. Not all geckos with Enigma syndrome death roll, and even those that do death roll do it very infrequently as long as their stress levels are kept down. However, a couple of my geckos have death rolled, and as you can see here, Shireen ended up upside down because of it. In general, Enigmas just have a very wobbly gait or movement, and they don't move like regular leopard geckos where they can have a clear direction of where they're walking with regular leg movements. With Enigma syndrome geckos, you'll see a lot of like tilting or falling over. You'll see very exaggerated steps, so like they'll lift their leg really high and place it down really fast instead of just having a normal walking pattern. It is not because they are blind. It is not because they have a body issue. It is a neurological disorder. They have balance and coordination issues within their brain. Enigma syndrome, like I said, is only found in Enigmas, but that does not mean that your gecko cannot have a neurological disorder that is not Enigma syndrome. In fact, I have 3 geckos that have a neurological disorder, and they are not Enigmas. One is Jojen, who is a white and yellow. White and yellow actually has its own syndrome. I don't know as much about white and yellow, but it's pretty similar to Enigma syndrome in that it has the exact same symptoms. Another one of my geckos who has a neurological disorder is Tormund, and he also has a smaller eye that he's blind in, and he has an egg-shaped head. He actually is doing wonderful for having a neuro disorder. He just has some movements where he's like a little like hoppy, and if you have him on your hand, he like doesn't perceive this is down. He just walks right off your hand, so you have to keep him low. And then Marjorie, who's over there, she's the exact same way. Though Marjorie is not an Enigma, she does have a neurological disorder. I don't know why Marjorie has one, but I can theorize as to why she has one. Tormund has one because he was the accidental pairing of a het bell and a het tremper, which are 2 strains of albino, and you shouldn't cross them. The person who bred him completely did it by accident and didn't know that one of the geckos was het for bell. Marjorie is an albino, and I feel like something similar happened with her, but I don't know her history as well. But anyways, Tormund, Jojen, and Marjorie, they are not Enigmas, but I just wanted to give an example of the fact that there are geckos that can have neurological disorders that are not Enigmas. So from this point on, I'm just going to be talking about Enigmas. My geckos with Enigma syndrome are Eddard, Marcella, Shireen, Sam, Gilly. I think that's it. Oh, and Melisandre. I also have a gecko who is an Enigma and a gecko I believe might be an Enigma, and both of them do not have Enigma syndrome, but they have really weird, like, structure and body shape, and on top of that, they're extremely picky eaters. So I'll actually talk about them in another video, just know that that's coming. Enigma syndrome ranges from mild to severe, and I have a few that are absolutely 100% considered severe, and I have one, my little Marcella, who doesn't hardly show any symptoms at all except for on rare occasions. Then I have geckos like Edard and Melisandre. I would say that their Enigma syndrome it's pretty obvious. You couldn't look at that gecko and realize something's not wrong with it. However, they're not as severe as Sam, Gilly, and Shireen. And then finally, my most severe geckos are Sam, Gilly, and Shireen. Sam, Gilly, and Shireen all came to me malnourished, and they definitely needed some TLC, and it took some time, but they're all gaining weight. Everyone's doing great since they came here. Theirs is so severe that they death roll. They need assisted sheds. They need assisted feeding. They're so sensitive to stimulation that they refuse to go in their humid hides, so I have to, like, spray down their enclosures every few days, which is really stressful for them, but otherwise they have more of a hard time getting their shed off if I don't. Gilly came to me almost dead. She was so pale in color, and like she looked like she was dead, and it was terrible. Shireen came to me a little bit better than that, and Sam came to me like middle of the line malnourished. The important thing to know about geckos with Enigma syndrome is that their symptoms are heightened by stress. An example of that is whenever Shireen goes into shed, she just does not stop circling and does not stop death rolling. She literally will just fall on her back and like lay there because her feet will be needing to shed, right? And so when she puts them on the ground, not only are they normally irritated, but they're irritated because shed is touching them. And so just the sheer fact that her skin is touching her, like the skin that she's peeling off is touching her, sends her into a death roll and she's on her back. It's terrible. Sam and Gilly are very similar. My dog Sam has joined me and he's pawing me in the butt. It isn't a video if my dog isn't here. I'll just pet him to keep him quiet. You may hear his breathing in the background. I don't know what to tell you. So another thing that occurs to make Enigma syndrome worse would be, like I said, stress, but stressful events such as breeding or bright lights or being malnourished. For Enigma syndrome geckos, when their bodies are unhealthy or in a, I would say, like malnourished state, or even just a state of constantly being drained of calcium or energy because they're breeding, that makes Enigma syndrome worse. So Shireen was a breeder, for example. I feel like her Enigma syndrome is much worse than it had to be had she not been bred. But I can tell you that stress definitely brings out their symptoms. When I first got them, they arrive with shed on their toes, and if you don't remove shed off of a leopard gecko's toes, it builds up over multiple sheds. It will constrict the blood flow to the toe, and the toe will actually fall off and just the toe is dead, it falls off, and your gecko no longer has that toe. So it's very painful. There's a risk of infection. It's definitely something that you want to avoid. So when Shireen got here and when Sam and Gilly got here, I had a very difficult time getting stuck shed off of them. In fact, Sam ended up losing like 1.5 toe, and it was terrible. I cried for like 2 days because I just couldn't get it off of her. It was so stuck on there. I was able to get Gilly's off, but she actually had a seizure while I was doing it, and that was terrible too. There's no cure for Enigma syndrome. Once a gecko has it, it has it. There is no treatment for Enigma syndrome. Like, you can't medicate it away, you can't fix it, it is just there. The symptoms will always be there. Sometimes they'll be heavier if there's more stress involved in the gecko's life. Other times they won't be as bad because the stress isn't there. Like I said, a healthier gecko will show less symptoms in my opinion. There is a way to avoid having a gecko get Enigma syndrome, and that is by not breeding Enigmas. The ability for a gecko who is an Enigma to have Enigma syndrome is always there. In the reptile community, people are saying, and I get this all the time, people who reach out to me, oh, do you have any space to take in an Enigma syndrome gecko? Either I say yes I do, or at the moment I don't, and they'll say that they are breeding Enigmas even though they know that they're getting Enigma syndrome geckos. Let's review what we discussed. 1, Enigma syndrome is found in geckos with the Enigma morph. 2, it's a neurological disorder that affects balance and coordination. 3, the signs are circling, stargazing, head tilting or head bobbing, and death rolling, as well as a unusual wobbly gait. 4, there is no treatment for Enigma syndrome, and it is worsened by stressors in life or being malnourished. 5, the only way to avoid Enigma syndrome is to not breed Enigmas. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of my Enigma syndrome series. I'm going to, from this point out, have episodes that are just about certain geckos. So, for example, I will start with Marcella because she shows the least symptoms, and I'll work my way up to Shireen, who shows the most. And I wanted to showcase each gecko on their own because Enigma syndrome shows itself so differently in each gecko. I figured it was best in explaining Enigma syndrome to show each gecko on their own, except for like this video, which summarizes what is it as a whole. From there on out, you can expect to see me discuss the morality or lack thereof of breeding enigmas, and you can expect to see how to feed an Enigma syndrome gecko or a gecko with a neurological disorder, how to make their lives easier, how to reduce their symptoms, and things like that. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please share it. I think that this is my most passionate topic regarding my reptiles, and I think it shows, honestly. But not enough is known about Enigma syndrome. In fact, I didn't even know what it was until a couple years ago, and so I think that it's really important that other people know about it as well. I think that as time goes on, people will start to realize that Enigma syndrome is so pervasive in enigmas that you should just stop breeding them. But I feel like this, my voice here, is an important step. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As always, links below: my personal Instagram, my personal Twitter, and the pet Instagram, pet Twitter, and pet Facebook. There's a donation link, which I made a video about last week if you're curious. There's also a contact email in case you want to contact me but you don't want to leave a comment on social media. Leave a like if you like this video, and this video along with all of the other Enigma series videos will be in a playlist on my channel, so you're very easy to find if you want to share with someone or if you want to come back and watch at a later time. And expect that some of the videos will get a little heated because it's a super controversial topic in the community. But I know my position and I'm gonna state it loud and clear. But that's all for now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!